The rain had already soaked through my sleeves when my foot pressed the brake and met nothing solid. Not resistance, not safety. Just a soft sinking. Give that told me. Instantly. This wasn't a malfunction. It was intent. This is a story created by the author of the Revenge Mosaicum channel for educational and inspirational purposes, and it does not portray any specific real-life individual. The car kept moving. The bridge stretched ahead, long and narrow, slick under the storm. My hands tightened on the wheel, pulse loud enough to drown out the rain. I pumped the brake once, twice. Each press came back weaker, like the system was bleeding out under my foot. Stay with me. I breathed, more command than prayer. The guardrail rushed closer. I jerked the wheel, metal screamed, and the impact spun the car sideways. One airbag exploded into my shoulder. My head snapped forward, pain blooming sharp and immediate above my eye. When the car finally stopped, silence dropped so fast it felt heavier than the crash. Rain leaked through the cracked windshield. Blood ran warm down my temple, dripping onto the collar of my blouse. I touched it, then pulled my hand back, red shining in the dim light. This was supposed to be a simple drive. Arrive. Listen to the will. Leave Charleston before dinner. That was the plan they'd agreed to, the one that kept everything neat, controlled. The brake pedal sagged uselessly beneath my foot. I laughed once, short and breathless. The sound caught somewhere between disbelief and clarity. They hadn't wanted me late. They hadn't wanted me gone. They wanted me silent. My phone lay on the passenger floor, screen spiderwebbed, still glowing. No missed calls, no concern. Just the time ticking forward, minute by minute, toward the reading they assumed I would never reach. If you're listening to this, stay with me. What happens next only makes sense if you see how quickly survival turns into choice. The rain kept falling. Cars passed without slowing. I pressed my forehead back against the seat, forced myself to breathe through the ache in my wrist, the burn in my ribs. Hospital meant delays, explanations, time for other people to move first. I wiped the blood away with the back of my hand, opened the door, and stepped into the storm. Whatever they had planned for me on the other side of that bridge was already in motion. So was I. The tow truck arrived faster than I expected, its lights cutting through the rain like a verdict. The driver leaned out, eyes flicking from the crumpled door to the blood on my face. That bridge eats cars when the weather turns. His voice carried a practiced calm. Then he crouched, peering beneath the hood. But this, pause. Fingers traced along a line. This doesn't fail on its own. My stomach tightened. How sure are you been pulling wrecks for 20 years? He answered, straightening. Cuts like that are clean. Deliberate. The word settled between us, heavy and final. He nodded toward the passenger door. Ambulance is the smart move. I shook my head, already climbing into the cab. Downtown, near the law offices. His brow furrowed. You're hurt. I'm late. The engine rumbled to life. I wrapped my scarf tighter around my head, the silk darkening as it soaked through. My wrist throbbed each time the truck hit a bump, but the pain kept me alert. You sure about this? His voice softened, not unkind. I won't be in an hour, I replied. Not if I disappear now. He studied me for a long moment, then pulled into traffic without another word. As the bridge faded behind us, I stared at my reflection in the cracked mirror. Blood, rain, proof. They expected an empty chair. I intended to give them something far more difficult to explain. People always assumed wealth made families softer. The Beaumonts proved the opposite. Smile. Lillian. You look tense. My mother's voice surfaced in memory, polished and sharp all at once. Appearances mattered more than comfort, more than truth. At the dinner table, Violet learned early, Sit straight. Speak lightly. Never disagree. Praise followed obedience like clockwork. She became perfect at it. Beautiful, quiet, empty when no one was watching. I learned something else. Numbers don't lie. My grandfather once told me in the study, sliding a ledger across the desk instead of a birthday card. Edmund Beaumont never raised his voice. He didn't need to. Authority lived in his restraint. People do. Those afternoons shaped me more than the house ever did. While Violet rehearsed charm, I memorized margins. While Mother curated her image, I learned where money moved when no one was looking. Why can't you be more like your sister? My mother's disappointment never sounded angry. That was the cruelty of it. Anger could be challenged. Disappointment just erased you. I left at 18 with one suitcase and a promise to myself I never spoke aloud. Build something no one could take. Earn what couldn't be dismissed. Still, I stayed in contact. Holidays, phone calls, updates I offered like proof of worth. That was the trap. When neglect is normal, survival feels like love. The tow truck slowed as we reached the city. My reflection wavered in the glass. Bloodied, awake, no longer negotiating for approval. Grandfather had trusted me with numbers because he knew I would read what others preferred hidden. That knowledge had finally made me dangerous. The truth settled into place as the truck rolled closer to the law offices. This wasn't fear, it was logistics. My mother's voice echoed from a call months earlier, smooth with practiced concern. Your grandfather worries about the charities. He hates waste. A pause, perfectly timed. You understand discretion. Discretion had always been her word for silence. I remembered Edmund's last visit, his hand lingering on my arm longer than usual. If anything ever feels wrong. His warning came low, almost casual, read past the totals. Look for the pattern. No affection in it, just trust. After his death, the pattern would surface whether they liked it or not. 12 years of rerouted funds. Roughly $24 million siphoned in pieces small enough to avoid notice, large enough to sustain an empire of favors and debts. My mother didn't fear exposure from auditors. She feared it from me. Caleb's laughter drifted into memory from a family brunch. You always were too sharp. Lillian. Amusement hid the edge. Sharp things cut. That was when I understood. I wasn't the spare anymore. I was the loose end. The brake lines weren't rage. They were efficiency, remove the variable, preserve the structure. My phone buzzed once as the truck stopped. A single message from my mother appeared on the fractured screen. Running late. We've started. Not concern. Confirmation. I closed my eyes, breathing through the pain, through the clarity. Approval had kept me polite. Survival had made me attentive. They hadn't tried to kill me because I failed. They tried because I knew exactly where everything broke. The library doors were already closed when I reached them. Inside, voices carried low, orderly, confident. The sound of certainty. I pushed the doors open. Conversation collapsed mid-breath. My mother sat at the head of the table in black silk, posture immaculate, grief arranged like jewelry. Her eyes lifted and froze. The composure cracked so fast it was almost audible. Lillian, the attorney breathed, half rising from his chair. His gaze dropped to the blood on my blouse, the scarf dark at my temple. Good Lord. Violet's hand flew to her mouth. Color drained from her face, leaving something pale and hollow behind. She stared as if I'd stepped out of a coffin instead of a storm. I crossed the room slowly. Each step pulled heat through my ribs, but I kept my shoulders straight. The empty chair opposite my mother waited. I took it. You look unwell. My mother managed, voice thin with strain. There's a hospital 3 blocks away. There was a bridge, I answered, calm settling where shock had been, and a brake pedal that didn't respond. Silence pressed in. Not confusion. Recognition. The attorney cleared his throat, fingers tightening on the folder. We were about to begin. Please, I urged, meeting his eyes. Don't stop on my account. My mother's lips parted, then closed. Whatever she'd prepared for this afternoon hadn't included me breathing in front of witnesses. Violet shifted beside her, a tremor running through her knee. You weren't supposed to. She stopped herself. Too late. I leaned back, blood cooling against my skin, and folded my hands on the table. Around us. The room waited. So did the truth. The attorney adjusted his glasses, the leather folder resting open in front of him. His voice steadied as he began. The will of Edmund Beaumont. Dated 3 years prior. Outlines. Read the most recent documents. My mother cut in, fingers tightening around her handkerchief. The signed version. The attorney hesitated, his eyes flicked to me, then back to the papers. A breath passed. Then another. There is an amendment, he acknowledged quietly, reaching into his briefcase. He withdrew a sealed envelope, the wax unbroken. Mr. Beaumont instructed that this be opened only under specific circumstances. My mother leaned forward. Those circumstances do not apply. They do, he replied, the word firm now. If Lillian Beaumont were harmed, threatened, or prevented from attending this reading by unnatural means. His gaze dropped to the blood still drying on my sleeve. The seal cracked. Violet made a small sound beside my mother, something between a gasp and a whimper. The attorney continued, each word precise. In such an event, all prior distributions are suspended. Any heir found complicit forfeits their claim in full. My mother's composure slipped. That's absurd. You can't. All assets, he went on, are transferred into an irrevocable trust, effective immediately. The room seemed to tilt. Lillian Beaumont is named sole beneficiary, he finished, with exclusive authority over all decisions and disbursements. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. My mother rose halfway from her chair. You're letting her steal everything. Nothing is being stolen, the attorney countered, standing now. This was Mr. Beaumont's directive. I met my mother's stare. For the first time. There was no disappointment there, no control, only calculation unraveling in real time. Violet's hands shook in her lap. Mom, you didn't tell me my mother didn't look at her. I leaned forward, voice steady despite the ache in my ribs. Grandfather trusted systems, not people. The attorney nodded once. An independent audit is also mandated. My mother sank back into her chair, the weight of it finally reaching her. The structure she'd built to protect herself had just turned inward, and it answered to me. The knock at the door cut through the room like a blade. Not polite, not hesitant. 2 officers stepped inside, rain still clinging to their coats. One carried a folder, the other scanned the room, eyes landing on me, then drifting to my mother. We're following up on a traffic incident from the bridge, the taller one announced, voice neutral. There are questions about mechanical interference. The folder opened. Photographs slid onto the table. Close-ups of a severed brake line. A receipt. A name. Violet's breath caught. Her chair scraped softly as she tried to stand, then sank back down. That's impossible, my mother objected, tone sharp with offense. My daughter wouldn't, Violet Beaumont, the officer interrupted, turning toward her. We need you to come with us. Violet's eyes flew to our mother, wide and searching. Mom, tell them, please. My mother didn't move, didn't speak. She stared straight ahead, jaw set, already measuring loss. Cold metal closed around Violet's wrists. The sound echoed louder than the storm outside. This is a mistake, Violet whispered, tears spilling freely now. I did everything you asked. Still nothing. I watched my sister crumble, watched the role she'd been trained for collapse under its own weight. The golden child, reduced to evidence. As they guided her toward the door, Violet twisted back toward me, voice breaking. I didn't want this. I believed her. The door shut behind them, leaving a silence that felt earned, deliberate, and dangerously incomplete. The officers paused just beyond the doorway. Violet's knees buckled, the fight draining out of her all at once. "Please," she choked, voice cracking against the room. I didn't do it for the money. My mother remained seated, hands folded, expression sealed. Violet turned toward me instead, desperation spilling over. "They have Anna." The name landed hard. My chest tightened. "Where?" She swallowed, breath ragged. "Magnolia Ridge Academy. They call it therapeutic. They take your phone. They decide when you're allowed to visit." Her eyes flicked to our mother. "They told me if you showed up today, my daughter wouldn't come home." One of the officers glanced back. "Who told you that?" "Uncle Caleb." The words came out small, ashamed. He owns the place, through one of his firms. He said it was temporary, just until things were settled. My mother finally spoke, voice smooth as polished wood. "You're being emotional. That school helps difficult children." Violet let out a broken laugh. "She's 9. She cries herself to sleep because the lights never go off." I stepped forward. "How long?" 3 weeks, Violet whispered. "They moved her rooms twice, said stability was a privilege." The officer closest to her stiffened. "That's not standard." "No." Violet agreed. "It's leverage." My mother rose then, chin lifting. "You're all overreacting. This is family business." I met her gaze. "You turned a child into collateral." Silence fell, heavy, irreversible. The officer nodded to his partner. "We'll need the address, and the ownership structure." Violet sagged in relief and terror at once. "Please," she begged me, voice barely there. "Get her out." I held her eyes, steady and certain. "I will." My mother watched the exchange, calculation flickering behind her calm. For the first time, she looked unsure which of us she had lost. The answer was both. The wire rested flat against my ribs when my mother finally broke. Not with tears, with precision. "You were never meant to carry this." Her voice drifted across the dining room, calm enough to sound reasonable. "Your grandfather built rules. I built results." Agents stepped in before she could finish the thought. The room shifted again, this time without ceremony. Handcuffs closed. Papers changed hands. Control evaporated. Caleb's name surfaced in the hours that followed. Then his company's. Then the school that called itself Magnolia Ridge. By morning, Anna was no longer behind locked doors. She slept on my couch that night, curled tight, breathing evenly for the first time in weeks. Violet faced consequences too. Not absolution, not erasure, just the long work of becoming someone outside obedience. When the house emptied, I stayed. Not to claim it, to close it. Power, I learned, isn't about winning. It's about choosing what ends with you. If you're still here, listening, carry that forward. Silence protects systems that feed on it. Attention breaks them. Share this story if it found a place in you. Someone else might need the reminder that survival is not betrayal. At dusk, Anna asked if we were safe. I nodded, steady. We are now. The legacy I inherited wasn't money. It was a chance to stop passing harm forward and to build something quieter, stronger, and finally honest.